So guys, welcome back. Today we're going to look at a really interesting subject. The subject is painting with light, and I'm going to discuss the editing technique or the raw conversion technique that I use in Workspace. It's very different because we're looking at the exposure controls in Workspace, then the image creation variables, tonal controls or gamma controls, and then if needed, general image editing settings. This article that you see here in front of you, my most recent article about the X-series of Olympus, the compact camera, is a very interesting article, and I think it helps understanding this concept of painting with light using the tools that Olympus gave us either in the camera or then replicated in Workspace. Very unique, very unique. So just a quick word. I've been studying quite a bit in preparation for this particular article and done quite a bit of research at the same time, and it's absolutely amazing what Olympus did with these three particular cameras. I like to believe today that they must have been some of the absolute best cameras at the time. Now we're looking nearly 20 years back. But the concept and the design and the particular sensor that Olympus selected for these cameras, we can talk for hours about that. It is so interesting when we learn what they did here. So looking at the processor, at the image processor, we see different controllers of different modules in the TruePic processor. The one is the general camera management, like menu operational controller type of thing. And these three here is what we have access to in the TruePic processor. So we have the exposure and white balance controller, we have the imaging and computational controller, and then we have the gamma controller and the creative controller. Now this might be two separate controllers, but I put them into one just to make it easier to follow what's happening. So we have three stages here: exposure, the imaging. This is some, basic things like picture mode, for example, the white balance, the embedded Kodak look. Every camera has this embedded Kodak look. And then the final look and feel of the image, tonal controls or gamma controls. I didn't add the editing settings in here because they don't belong here. So the editing settings, I guess, if we had to draw another line here to the SD card, then general editing settings will be in between the TruePic processor, you can say, and the SD card. It is some sort of in space. That is why we refer to these here as non-destructive adjustments that we make in the camera. They are non-destructive because we can change or update them in Workspace, which is a very unique concept. I'm not aware of Fuji has a similar thing, but it can do half what this software Workspace can do together with the Olympus camera. So it's a very basic system in Fuji, where Olympus really developed a fantastic tool for photographers to use. We can also see the link to Workspace here with PC RAW, or then the enhanced, or what I call the RAW Plus format. So the enhanced RAW file has all these information from the image from the camera, and it makes it available in Workspace for us to edit and to tweak. So we have this difference between non-destructive, any settings that I change here, or then permanent settings, some people call it also destructive. So basic image editing, remember the part that would be sitting out here, they are permanent. So we don't get the chance in Workspace to update them or change them. So my advice is to, you can do what you like. I really want people to have the freedom. I'm not the one who decides, but I want to encourage the freedom to discover the Olympus camera and to rediscover photography, and not to be locked into a collective thinking that's so strong in the photography segment at the moment. So it would be so nice for people to take this freedom and to rediscover the camera as well as photography. So we're going to look at how we use these three phases here to paint with light. I want to give you a few examples, which I think is very interesting. This one is amazing. You don't see it when you look at the image from the camera. And this now is the first concept that I think is very interesting. The camera does a fantastic job in creating the JPEG file, but it's a standard or a set of adjustments and tweaking that the camera does to get a generally good image from the camera, a JPEG image. But the fine details of the sun, how the sun is playing into the image, and for many photographers, that play with the sun makes or breaks an image. It's really critical for many photographers to highlight the sun as they saw it the day they took the image. And here you see this. This is so interesting. For example, the sun is from behind here. It's sort of from behind the photographer. So I was probably standing here somewhere in the background, and the sun was coming through here. You can see it's just touching the leaves, or the branches here, and then it goes over. It's highlighting this area here, and then there you have direct sunlight, and then you have this fantastic play of sun right in the background and the darker area here. But you can see here on the second or the third table there, probably the fourth table there, you can see that the sun already had some impact there. And then you have the lights here, which is still very early morning, and the background here, and you can see the lights reflecting from the portraits out there at the back. You see that? So this is such an amazing image, an example of painting with light. So our purpose is to correct any angles, a building hanging over here because we had the camera wrong. So to correct all those little things, and then to go over to a painting with light effect using those tools from the camera and Workspace to get to this final. Here also you see an interesting color play here. You can see the blue sky coming through here, and then you still had the early morning orange yellow sort of color here. Again, you see some blue coming through here. This is another really interesting one. If you look at the middle image here, so obviously the sun wasn't coming from this direction. Again, I think it was behind the photographer somewhere here, which is not 100%. It must have come somewhere like this, but at an angle, because it didn't highlight this part of the building, only the front part. And you can see also that it's more dominant on this side of the people here, but it's not really lighting up the building there. And then you can also see the trees here, so you can sort of guess the direction of light, and we want to highlight that with our editing process. Here we have more diffused light because we don't have direct sunlight here. And this is another very amazing image, I think. So this is the HDR image I did from a RAW file. So I didn't have bracketed shot, I just took the RAW file. And what I try to do here is, apart from the HDR effect, which I personally like, it's again part of this discovery, jumping outside the collective and looking with a fresh eye onto photography. personally, I love this image. I think it's so nice. But what you have here is again the play with light. So the sun must have been coming from this direction here, and you can see how beautiful the light it has painted this sort of image to get this final effect. Another one I want to quickly look at. This is not as special. This is more the HDR look, which I really like the way that it does people. I want to look at a few others here. This is a very interesting image for me because this was totally in shadow. It was dark, and I was then playing with the tonal controls. You can see the sun is coming from the behind. It's coming from the front behind this area here, but it's sort of coming in at an angle. So you have a very sharp brightness here with a blue sky there, and then these darker areas that I upped with a gradation function. But at no means was the goal to recover shadows or to recover highlights. I just wanted to emphasize this light play coming into the scene here, this effect here, and the brightness here, and then the absolute darkness here at the bottom again. I think you can even see some lights that is switched on inside the building there. This is another really, really interesting one. And all I did was, while I edited this image, I focused on the play of light here. So this brings me to the final point in this introduction here, and that is I never ever recover highlights. I'm never concerned about noise. These cameras don't have noise. Even these compact cameras, these 3 compact cameras, has no noise or very little noise. The Micro Four Thirds camera is the same. The only Micro Four Thirds camera with noise is the E30, you know, that 12 megapixel sensor. If I pull the exposure compensation right up to the, you know, to brighten this image here, and if I then also go down here and I brighten the image extreme with a, and then you can see noise here. So you saw how dark this image was. You even see the normal noise and some color here in this darker areas. This is the only sensor from Micro Four Thirds that I know has some noise. Here you have an image from one of these compact cameras. If I do the same thing again, if I brighten it completely to there, and I pull over the midtones, then you get something like, now remember, I still have the noise filter on, so the moment you open the RAW file, even if I haven't selected any of these, the RAW settings is already active in Workspace. So the TruePix data has already been duplicated in Workspace. So if we take a larger view of this, look at the detail here. There's so much detail that we can work with, and there's so little noise to manage. Look at this here. And this is a tiny, in comparison, a tiny sensor. But the combination of a high sensitivity sensor, a fantastic lens, and a brilliant TruePix processor gives me this sort of result here. I want to show you something else here quickly, and I said it in the article. Clipping has nothing to do with, the sensor can clip. But now that you know the difference between exposing the sensor and what the ISO is doing, we can see that here. So if I go to the highlight clipping indicator here, then I can see here, so the red is a warning, green is the next level, and black is clipping. So I had some clipping here, but it could also be, and this is the first interesting thing, it could also, let's just reset it, make it easy, and reset the image, and now we have almost no clipping or even warning signal coming. So the sensor, no, I'm making a mistake, so there are some clipping, or there is some clipping already taking place here, but look what the software can do if I'm not careful with what I do in software. So if I completely, I want to recover the shadows now. Look at the clipping that I'm causing here now. So it's not only the sensor, it's my camera settings, it's the ISO, it is image editing settings. There are many variables in causing clipping. So I just wanted to show you that. I'm going to reset this image again. And then we're going to look at a quick edit. I want to try and save some time today, not spend too much time. So obviously you can see there seems to be clipping already here. But you'll see that we still save. This is one of the advantages with the RAW format, that we can recover much of the information. I'm going to take this off because I'm more interested to highlight this play with light here and to look at the image. But we obviously need to bring back the exposure. So we need to take the exposure back. I've done it last night. I quickly practiced with this image here, and I took it back to -5 EV here. And if we have a quick look, then I think we sort of recovered most of the sky here. There's a slight still warning signal, but not the black here, so we're in a good place here. The moment we did that, now this is a typical strategy that I follow. Now the concept here is interesting. So most of the modern software packages works on a masking and editing concept. So you mask the sky and then you edit the sky. You mask people and then you edit the person. The concept in Workspace is radically different because we focus on light, like I explained before. So we're only painting with light. So if I bring down the exposure like I did here now, then I like to recover this area here. And this is what makes the gradation function so fantastic, because it sort of simulates a mask and editing, but it's all automatic. We don't have to be concerned, and it only focuses on the shadow areas. When you use it in the camera, it will change the camera settings, so it's sort of protecting the highlights at the same time. So I'm going to take the camera white balance reading. Remember, this one here is always the camera white balance reading. Sometimes I select, if I want to have this sort of morning effect here, I would go to 6000 there, but I was already very close, so it doesn't make much of a difference, and that's why I selected this one. The color space, I always use RGB, and the picture mode, I'm going to change that to vivid, because I want to have a little bit more of a vivid scenery here. And then the gradation, we're going to select auto to recover the shadow areas here. But I don't want to kill the lighting here. I think it's so nice. And I think we're getting close to a very interesting version of the image. So we can see here at the back, it's still very bright over there. Very bright over there. But I do not want to recover the details here. That's not my purpose. The purpose is more to show this shadow area here at the bottom where there's no sun yet, the play of the sun coming in, the brightness of the sun here in the distance, and the contrast between that. So that's sort of my goal here. And so I'm going to bring back the shadow of the highlight setting a little. But one has to be so careful not to kill the image here. You can quickly kill the complete effect here. And you can already see I have a negative, almost negative effect. Let's go down to the tonal control, which is also, the tone curve, which is also tonal control. And I want to bring up the midtones a little. The reason I do it here is because I don't have a midtone there. The midtones help me to get a little bit more information there, and also the reflection. I can highlight the reflection of the lamps over there. And then I want to pull back the highlights even a little more here. That is for the distant buildings there. And I'm going to up the shadows just a little more. Now I have an interesting effect. I can go up back to the exposure settings. So I'm using exposure. I'm using the camera settings, vivid here. And I'm using the tonal controls to get to the final image. So here you have the play of light here. You have very nice information. You have the orange color in the morning here. You have just enough details here on this side here. And then we can do a final step where we sort of add clarity. Clarity gives me a lot of definition in the scene. That's my personal view. Many people don't like it. I like the setting that I did there. And then I'm going to take the noise control to low and take, cancel this here because we don't need it. There's no noise in this image to be concerned about at all. So there's absolutely no reason for noise control in this particular image. We can do a final sharpness, so I would do about 41, 38 there, and 1.4. And this would be the final image, folks. Awesome. This is exactly what I want, and it's very similar to the one you will see in the article. This here is another so interesting image. If you look carefully, if we go back to the normal size there, so here you had the sun coming from behind this building, and it obviously lit up this complete area here. There was less sun over the trees here, and then this all is in shadow here, in this area here. Now, the human eye saw this a little differently. So with the human eye, we saw more detail here. It was brighter in this area here. And the trees were also a little more brighter than we have it right now there. And the bird there was just, pure luck. It wasn't planned. So I want to keep the look of the scene, but I want to highlight a little bit more detail here. And that is, again, that's a perfect example for tonal control or the gradation function. So again, the exposure, I'm not going to adjust the exposure at all. We can have a quick look, just for information's sake. And you can see we're losing some, but it's not important. For me, that's absolutely, I will even brighten it up a little bit more here. And on the shadow side, we might have a bit of shadows going black, nothing, perfect. So I'm not going to adjust the exposure at all here. I'm going to select the camera white balance. Now, obviously, we have two white balance readings here. The shadow here, that would be more in the region of 6,000, and then the bright sun. So we can look what it looks like if I make this the dominant one. And the reason I do that is to get a bit of color in the sun here. And I like that. So I think, so we get the morning color in the sun, and it's also benefiting the trees a little here. One could go up a little higher to 6,500, but I'm happy there. I think it's good. You would select the 6,500 here, but I don't want to change the camera reading there, just for in case. So again, the RGB, the natural, again, I want to do vivid, and the reason is the vivid is I want to highlight the trees here a little, and the color of the sun here. You can see also the color of the sun coming through there. And then the gradation, we're going to do the auto again. And then you get this lovely effect where I think it's closer to what the human eye sees. an image like this. So we're absolutely painting with light here. We're painting with light in the shadow area here. We're painting with light in the color of light here. We're focusing on the trees there. We're focusing on this little scene happening up there. It's also amazing, interesting. So I'm going to go directly to the tonal adjustments or the tone curve, and I'm going to brighten the image. So the tones were only really getting to this point here, but I want to shift everything to the right a little bit. Now, this is not ETTR, this is editing. So I just want to shift everything to the right. You can see I'm safe here. And that's why I said I will even get a larger effect of the clipping here, but it's beautiful, it's part of the scene. And I therefore, by increasing the brightness, I'm also highlighting the trees a little bit more. And then I'm using a contrast adjustment here, so different to the previous image. I'm adding a bit of contrast here. So I'm highlighting even more there. And then and this here you can change for as much as you want to, emphasize the trees here. But emphasizing the trees is two things, it's color and light, because we have a lovely play with light here through the trees. And the more saturated painting look here is a result of the S-curve there. S-curve also gives us a sort of a sharpening effect. So here we have a very interesting image. I want to have a little bit more cloud information here. So I'm going to bring back the highlights just one step here. There you can see it. So I'm not losing the effect there, but I'm getting a little bit more information in the sky. Now if I do it a second step, then I'm going to kill the light here at the bottom. Let's have a look. So if I bring it down one more step, and this is why with Workspace you edit one step at a time. These are not highlight recovery sliders or shadow lifting the shadow sliders. These are tonal gamma curve sliders where we're really tweaking color and the look and feel of the image. So here we have a really nice, you even have some light play here at the bottom. We have beautiful light play there. Let's look at a before after. So this is the before and this is the after. Now the camera, as I said at the start, does a good job. So it's take a true, as accurate as possible within the limitations of typical gamma setting. So remember, cameras doesn't have much freedom in the gamma setting. There's like a fixed gamma setting which they use for most of their images. That's why Olympus gave us tremendous controls to tweak the gamma setting and to get to this look here, which is much closer to what I saw the morning when I took this image. And then obviously we can end with tweaking for some reason at the time I didn't use the low filter. So here we have the low filter. Let's do a quick unsharp mask, and I also use a different sharpening method in Affinity, which I will show you one day. So this would be, now we're getting closer to the final image. My PC is a little slower than it's nothing to do with Workspace. My PC is just a little older and a little slower. I love it. It's a wonderful PC. I'm having so much fun with it. But and me also, I'm a little older, so speed is not the utmost requirement in my life anymore. I'm having so much fun just editing and enjoying these images, much more than the ultimate speed. So here we even have a nice reflection here on the ship here now. This is so nice. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something today. I did a previous video and it was almost an hour, and I realized maybe too many things that I covered in one video. So I hope this is good. I hope you enjoyed this and that you learned something. The only way to get better is to practice. Use Workspace. Get used to it, and ask me questions if you need. Mail me a mail. There's an area on the blog where you can contact me here. You can contact me if needed, and I'm happy to help. So have a good day. Have fun. Enjoy your camera. Keep a camera on you. One of these are perfect, and take advantage of those lovely moments that we see so often during the day. So thank you. Bye.